join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ginny, would you please call the roll? Bessler? Here. Childers? Collins? Here. Lee?
Here.
McGrath? Sullivan? Owen? Here. Okay. Do we have any public comments? Art? Then let's move on to an update from Dr. Wallace.
And I did not realize that we pulled this with us. I'm trying to get these here.
Just wait it up. You know you can call it around.
I can do that. A couple of things, just real quickly. Very good start to the beginning of school. And is that your coming from? Okay. Really good start to the beginning of school. So I wanted to this is obviously wanted to thank the principals for a really, really smooth transition to a new school year. Our 115th year of continuous service here in District 207. And so we had a good start. We've got really record numbers in a lot of different areas, but before we talk about all that, I want to talk about the most innovative thing that we have done in District 207 in forever and a day. And that is, we have a help dog at Maine High School. His name is Luke. So I've been practicing my second language abilities, and I speak puppy dog. Who wants a good one?
Can we make a request for Mike to bring him to board meetings? It's stressful at times?
Yes, we will be on. Of course, and I wish Audrey was here because you know who had to get one next. Because he
Sean.
had one.
Because Audrey is not stressed at all.
Ours is in the works.
Wes will have our next one. So they're working on getting it certified, and it's actually really cool. It's kind of an interesting thing. It isn't. There are some districts out there that have them, but it's one more tool that people can use with all of the different help that we try to give kids and staff these days. So I think there are a few staff members that will be popular with as well.
Who gets to take him home?
Yeah.
We have a staff member. That's Chris Villalobos right here. So this is Chris, and that's
Not owned by the district.
It's not owned by the district. Mary has liability questions. We'll have a presentation on that earlier. I was just saying who would have our next help dog. Yes. So the staff member, and at West we have a staff member that's going to get one who wants a dog anyway, so they're getting one for presentations. And then South, as we said, is in the works. So just real quickly, I want to give the board an annual update, which I did last September, just on goals. Audrey just got here, so I'm going to repeat what I said before. I'm going to embellish just a little bit. And this is really a nod to our three principals and to Dr. Delvarga. I think there is an objective case that we are doing better work right now in this district than ever before. And we've got great leadership from our three principals, and I'm going to show you some slides in a minute to really explain that. And then Dr. Delvarga has just been magnificent in all of the organizational things that she's done in this district to help us really get better. I lumped all of the goals that the board has seen and improved really into two broad categories. First one is improving our academic program, and that's everything. That's trying to make our special education program really take that leap from good to great and really be one of the best programs out there. And then continue to increase our rigor in our accelerated program and open up the doors for that. And we've got really good measurables on that I'll share with you in just a minute. And then the second thing, and this is related to another big picture item, which is time, and how do we use time? And that's really improved post-high school outcomes. We've been doing something, I think, laudable for several years, and that's not just patting ourselves on the back because most of our kids graduate high school, and this is a lot of Barb's work out of her office. We've also been following the outcomes of our kids after they leave us. Do they graduate college? How much time does it take to graduate college? And what we're really, the next phase of that is really looking at, are you graduating, and are you graduating in an area where you can get a job, and can you do it without a huge debt load? So that's really the shift of where we're going. This is a photo that Barb took back in 2010 when we were planning with the district leadership team. From time to time, we hear things like, well, they're shifting sands and we're not focused on this or focused on that. And I would argue just the opposite of that. We've been very, very focused. If you look at the things on this list, we have done every single thing that we've set out to do and lay a foundation to continue to get better. I just met last week with our elementary district superintendents, and we're talking about all the things that we're doing here and the need to really link with our elementary districts in better and better ways. Barb's laid a lot of that groundwork as well out of her office, as have our three principals who interface with the elementary districts all the time. There's really two essential functions that I think about every day. And I talk to Barb or I talk to Crystal Tucky, and that's student learning, and that's a big thing that any district does. But the second thing, and what every district doesn't do, is something that we do, is we think a lot about adult learning. Because the two are really linked. If you really want student learning to improve, you've got to give some thought and have a game plan for how to improve adult learning. These are our clear projects. Some of the topics from our studies for this year. This is under Barb's supervision along with Mike Young, who's one of our instructional coaches. Studies like, does purposely exposing and teaching visible learning characteristics to students change your understanding and use of them? How does self-assessment and peer assessment influence student achievement? And on and on. And these are actual studies where our participants, our teachers, this is part of their coaching plan, select an independent variable and a dependent variable and conduct a study over a school year and then report out. The reports that our teachers do are remarkable. They can take them to national conferences. To date, we've had 93 participants. As the board knows, we are in our third year of instructional coaching plans for all of our teachers. We're the only American public school district that does this that we know of. There may be one out there. We haven't found them yet. The clear participants, once they go through, and this is a selected strand of coaching, they go back through coaching training themselves, and then they coach the next cohort of participants in clear. I think we've got close to 30 participants this year in clear, so it's probably our biggest class to date.
Ken, just a quick question.
Yes.
The results of those surveys are,
So this is one of the reports. These are given annually.
where are they?
Well, they're housed. We have a website, and a lot of them are on video.
There's a site, and their presentations are digitally recorded. Their PowerPoints or Google Slides presentations are linked there, and their independent and dependent variables are listed on the questions. We can send you the link to the site.
That's good.
So you can look at it. So we do the presentations in the summertime. So this is Nate Hassman from West, who the board knows well, and then Aggie Chinsky. Pichio Chinsky. I was close. I think I hit the syllable count right. They studied do students perform better with cooperative learning or competitive learning, and they found that the answer is cooperative learning, which is good to know. That's one of our foundational courses that we teach all of our teachers as we come through. In fact, one of the conversations that I had last week with the elementary superintendents was to take up the cause of training our elementary teachers on cooperative learning in the same way that all of our students now are coming, really knowing and understanding Google after education. The more of those things we can do at the elementary level, the further ahead our kids will be when they get here. But this was a great report that Nate did. And Nate has been through 2 or 3 times. He's one of our real teacher leaders. He is just an exemplary educator in District 207. I truly believe this, we take a lot of things we do here for granted. I believe that our teachers in District 207 are doing the very best work of any teachers in America. I truly believe that. When we go out and see other teachers from around the country, and Barb can speak to this, our principals can speak to this, what we find is that teachers and other educators find out what we're doing, and they're like, I can't believe it, I wish we could do that. And that's across every spectrum of things we do. So we know how important it is to support our teachers to be the very, very best. And so we're doing really incredible work. This is our current trend line. District 207 in 2016, again, thanks to the great work of our 3 principals, thanks to the work of Barbara Varga, for the first time in district history, all 3 of our schools crossed the 2.0 challenge index line. And it's a great achievement. We set a goal to get to 3 by 2020. We're going to get there. The other thing that we're trying to do along with raising our challenge index is to improve our equity. Now, this is accelerated learning. So this is the percentage of students at each building who are taking accelerated courses. Accelerated courses defined by students in dual credit courses, in accelerated courses, or in AP courses. You can see, even a year over, from 2015 to 2016, every single one of our buildings grew, which is how we get to those challenge indexes. But just as a way of perspective, so District 64, which is our only elementary that has a quote-unquote gifted program, limits their enrollment to 5% of their students. It's 5% of students who are the highest test takers in 3rd grade. So it's one snapshot in time. And what we found in years past is that students that got into that track were always in that track, and other students could never get into that track. At Maine South High School today, and actually this is last year's data, I think it's actually higher this year, we have by more than 10 times that number students in accelerated programs, and we don't think we've come close to hitting our ceiling. Now, that may seem unimportant to people, but that's actually really, really important, because those students in 3rd grade that get selected for those gifted and talented programs, that sets the course for their lifetime. And so it's incredibly important that we expose students to more rigorous learning, because those kids are earning college credits already in high school. They are getting into schools at a higher rate, and in fact, the research is they're going to graduate college at a higher rate the more rigorous work they can do before. So that's part of the key conversation that we're having with our elementary superintendents is how can we, knowing that 2 of our elementary districts don't have gifted programs, and one has one that has a cap of 5%, how can we grow that accelerated learning at the elementary level? We have proven, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that we can do that at the high school level, which tells us intuitively that we can do it at the elementary level and expand that. So that's the conversation that we're having. And we're really proud of the work that our 3 buildings are doing. Again, those are the highest numbers in the history of the district by far. So we continue to grow those year after year after year. The other thing that's a big piece of this is we have an agreement now with Oakland Community College to do what's called a 415 program, and our goal is within a year or 2 to have a framework where students can get 15 college credits before they leave high school. I'm sorry, Jim.
Just a quick question, Ken. So overall, we are right at 50% or so boundary of all the students are taking AP courses.
Taking accelerated dual credit or AP courses. Now, the students that are taking accelerated, most of them are going on and taking AP. Okay, so we have a few that are taking only dual credit courses, and the next thing that we've got to work on legislatively in Illinois is something similar to what we do with AP courses, is to make sure that 4-year colleges and even all community colleges accept the dual credit course for college credit when we
It
get to
definitely
school.
shows a slow upward
Yes.
moving course to it.
Yes.
Compared to, how's it compared to our local neighborhood districts?
We are-
GBS, Stevenson.
We are better than most of them. Stevenson probably has the highest number, but we're on, our trajectory is like this. They're up there. We're moving in the direction to surpass them. So this is a very competitive area, as you know, in the suburbs of Chicago. The school districts have probably more AP courses taken up here than almost any other area of the country outside of big cities like New York, San Francisco, places like that. So our trajectory is good, but we're ahead of most, and the ones that we're not ahead of, we're catching up to. So the other thing that we're really trying to do is close our equity gap. And you can see our trend lines. We are as close to equity as we've ever been, but just not close enough. This is our Asian and white students represented by the blue line in AP enrollment. These are our Hispanic and African American students represented by the red line. So we're really trying to close that equity gap. And this is a big challenge, but we've set out to do it. Again, this is the work that our principals and Barb are really helping us do. We've really identified it down at the student level and trying to really tap kids on the shoulder and support them to get in there. So we're trying to do 2 things at one time, which is grow the entire pool, but close equity while you're doing it. So those are tough things that can work against each other when we do that, but we're making headway on that. So we really are trying to get to a point in the future where we've got equity. This is the conversation I'm having with District 62 in particular, where we have a large and growing Hispanic population. They have very specific challenges around education, so they need a ton of support. All the more reason why, if we can start working with our Hispanic population students in elementary school and really doing that accelerated learning, that will help us, because right now, Audrey's got to do a lot of the work when the kids show up as freshmen at Maine West, and so if we can start that a lot earlier, I think we can help close the gap a lot quicker by having a partnership. And the good news is our elementary districts are really on board for that. Here's what we really started looking at a few years ago, and that is not just did we get kids graduated in high school, but what happened to them when they left us? These are outcomes for the entire district. What we find is that we're well ahead of the national average. 6 years out, and this is the class of 2009, so we're looking at this specific class, but our classes track pretty close to this. About 58% of our kids have degrees. The national average on a 6-year profile is about 42%. So as a district, we're 15% ahead of the rest of the nation. We have to subscribe to the National Student Clearinghouse because it is the best service that will give us this kind of data, unfortunately. We don't have national data that tracks kids in a way that we'd like to. So this is by building. We can see Maine East is about 50%, Maine South is about 70%, and Maine West is about 50%. Again, all three, even West and East, are well above the national averages, even though they are more diverse and probably poorer than the national averages. We're outperforming the national averages with more diverse and poor populations, which is a reflection of the really good work that's happening. Here's the other thing, though. There's a couple of slides here that will show us why it's important to do the college and career counseling that we're trying to do. This is the equity gap by poverty rate. So that 6-year profile, you can see that kids who come from more affluent households graduate, and this is axiomatic data, everybody knows this. Kids that come from more affluent households graduate at a higher rate than kids that come from poor households. So we're doing better. Our poor households, you can see, the class of 2008, we've got almost 50% of those kids have degrees, and that would be like a 7-year out snapshot. That's well above the national average, but we can do better. That's why the college and career counseling that we're trying to do is so important. And I say this all the time, but we've got everything in this district from families who will hire consultants to get their kids into elite schools to families for whom college isn't even on the table and isn't even consideration, but it's getting a job after high school. That's a huge responsibility. We take it very seriously, and that's where, as a school district, we're trying to really reimagine how we serve students, and time is a big element of that. And the problem with earning a degree is that about 1 out of 2 kids who earns a degree can't afford to either pay their college debt, or they couldn't find a job, or they couldn't find a job and they can't afford to pay their college debt, because school districts and colleges are not doing a good enough job of explaining that you want to go get a degree in philosophy, and you're going to incur debt, and you don't have a job to go to when you get that bachelor's in philosophy. Okay, generally. So we're trying to do a better job of being precise with our counseling. The story I always tell, everybody's heard it, but it's my community advisory council member who's got a friend whose son wanted to go to Carthage and major in theater. Went to Carthage, majored in theater. Carthage, great school too, by the way, Audrey. And it's a great school. Applied to multiple troops, didn't get a job in any one of the troops, which is very, that happens for theater majors. So is working in Milwaukee, I think, at $14 an hour, and is managing $75,000 worth of school loans. That's unsustainable, and that's a common story. It's not a Maine 207 kid, but it could be. We have kids just like this. Here's how precise we are trying to be in our school districts. So let's take that case study of this kid. If he's in our counseling office, what we want to have happen is the counselor asking the parents questions like, can you afford to send your child to Carthage? Because if they love theater, we want them to go major in theater. But we want to inform that with, here's what Kurt Cruising tells us about the jobs outlook, about the amount of money you can expect to make, about what an appropriate debt load is. If parents say we can afford to send our son or daughter to Carthage for little to no debt, go to Carthage, great theater program. But if the answer is no, and think about that as a question, we don't ask that question, can you afford it? But if the answer is no, we have a duty to say, well, let's consider all of the facts. And part of that is a job outlook. But then the other piece is, can we counsel them to say, You know who else has a really good program? You can go there for little to no debt. You can start at Oakton. They have a good theater program. You know who else has a really good program? Illinois State. And you can go there for little to no debt. And so you can still go major in theater, and we can talk about all of the possible job opportunities, one of which maybe you can come back and you teach theater for District 207, which isn't a bad outcome if you can do it. But we can reduce that debt load. We have a responsibility. If you go to Harvard Medical School and you come out with $200,000 worth of debt, that's okay. You're going to get a job and you can afford to manage $200,000 of debt. But if you go to Harvard and you got an English degree and you got $200,000 worth of debt, that's not so okay. So it's that kind of very precise conversation that we're trying to have with students, and we have a growing number of students that are not having those conversations at home. And that is District 207. Who's going to have those conversations? If we don't have them, a lot of times they're not being had. And so we have a moral imperative, in my opinion, to serve the students that we have. And these are the students that we have. This is the debt load profile, and most people don't know the student loans right now outpace auto loans, outpace credit cards, outpace home equity loans in the debt market. It's an unsustainable and staggering amount of debt. And that's what's really happening. More kids are going to school than ever before. More kids are going away and they're getting more diplomas than ever before. They're incurring more debt than ever before, and they're going into jobs that don't exist in many, many cases. This is the mean debt load, which is approaching $35,000 for every U.S. student that graduates college. Now the mean debt is close to $35,000, and it's unsustainable. It's approaching $1.4 trillion. Kids are not getting married, they're not starting families, they're not buying homes, they're not buying cars because they're managing so much debt load in this country. We have to do something about it, and that's what District 207 is trying to do. And this is just CPI versus debt.
Ken, you said 1.1 trillion, but the previous slide to this was billion.
No, it's trillion. The total debt load for all students combined right now is approaching 1.4 trillion in the total market. That might be an annual number. Of course, 1,200 billion is 1.2 trillion. Yeah, that's trillion. That's one. This is as a,
1,200 billion.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was one.
it does say billion. You're right. Yeah, but that's actually, this is 1.2 billion right there. And that's a trillion.
It's comma, it's not a point.
Okay,
200 billion.
it's a bunch of money.
I just wanted to know I was listening.
Okay, and so again, costs rising much further than CPI, unsustainable. This is another, reflected as a percentage of median earnings, and in 2012 it was 42% of household median earnings, where just in 2001 it's about 23%. So it's a staggering amount of money, and it's unsustainable. We have to do a better job. What we're doing in this district, what we've set a course to do, is, I think, the right thing to do. Is ahead of the curve. We're setting the curve on this, and what we're doing will be the model for a lot of districts 10 years from now. But we can do it. We can be first out, and we can do a better job of that because we've got the willpower to do it. Here's the last slide I'll say on school and jobs. This is Maine Township, and this is some of the work that Laura Cook does. In Maine Township, which is large and diverse and has a nice mix of light industry and retail and any number of other things, in Maine Township, 43% of the top 100 jobs require something other than a bachelor's degree. 43%. Only 35% of the top 100 jobs require a bachelor's degree. Maine Township scales out pretty well to Illinois, scales out pretty well to the rest of the U.S. The trend that's going to happen in higher ed, the conversation is already happening. In 2011, a consortium of 33 governors started asking questions like, how are our colleges doing? And they turned that rock over. Pat Quinn at the time in Illinois was one of those 33 governors. And what they found was the outcomes are not very good. And so the world is changing in higher ed. I think what you're going to see, and Barb is really leading us in this district on this, is things like credentialing, micro-credentialing, where you've got an identified skill that is saleable, and you go to work without much debt, and you still continue to get an education. Our manufacturing partners, we have to date almost 300 partners in District 207 that are helping us find internship opportunities for our students. Tell us all the time, we can't find workers. If we find a worker from your district, that's good. Say they've got a CNC mill certification, which they can get with us. We'll hire them, we will pay them, and if they want to go to school to be a manufacturing engineer, we'll pay for that. That's what we hear all the time. So we need to rethink how we do business and how we send kids out to schools and to colleges without a precise understanding of where jobs really are. That's not to say, now I've showed this before and I get people say, are you saying that kids don't need to go to college anymore? No, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is we need to reimagine what college means. We've used one term, college. How about post-high school education? In the marketplace today, the kids that leave our high school, they're going to continue to learn because the world is changing fast, quickly. So you're going to continue to learn. It may not necessarily be with just a college degree. It may be a whole bunch of other things, ongoing training and ongoing learning. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up real quickly. What really inspired our thinking, and the principals and Barb and I and the entire cabinet sitting around and thinking about the SHUA program. You know what the SHUA program is, where they take really talented kids that come from underserved populations and they support the heck out of them. These are our kids from a couple of years ago at Maine East High School. Daniel, Stanford, full ride. Aliana, MIT, full ride. Jason, Dartmouth, I think he's on a full ride. These are all our Schuler kids. And so we began asking the question, what can we do with our existing resources to support our kids who are not in Schuler to replicate Schuler's outcomes? And that's what really led us to our pivot about college and career counseling. It's reimagining the work that people do. We're not asking for extra counselors. We're asking to evolve the role of our counselors. But here's what our counselors don't have. They don't have time. Our counselors exist and they orbit our schedule. Everything in the middle of our schedule is about teaching time, and that is absolutely always going to be our focus is teaching time. But in order for our counselors to interface with our kids, they do one of two things. They push in or they pull out. Push in means we go into English class, okay? And so English class isn't meeting today, we're meeting with the counselors, or we're pulling kids out of English class or social science class or any number of other classes, and we bring them in the auditorium and so we meet with them. So we're stealing academic time already, and we're doing it very judiciously because we don't want to pull kids out or push into classes and interrupt class time. So that's really behind why we want to rethink time and why schedule is so important to that. We think we can improve outcomes, but you can't, it doesn't happen by itself. It will not happen without a systemic and strategic focus to do it. So, last slide. And all I've done here, I want you to focus on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, because this is how the world changes right here. It's Tuesdays and Wednesdays. This is our hybrid block mock-up, and what I've done is just take what our counseling department will be able to do on Tuesdays and Wednesdays without pushing into anybody's class or without pulling out anybody from a class. Because the hybrid with the IE periods gives long periods of time where, for example, and these are real things that we do right now. Senior college application, kind of sounds like a big deal. Juniors, envision your future, big deal. That's related to that college and career counseling. Juniors, SAT and college planning prep. Freshmen, know your counselor, GPA, pass, fail. How does accelerated learning help you get into college? How does taking an AP course help you get into college? Sophomore, resume writing. Again, we're talking to freshmen, sophomore about mentoring, internship opportunities. So it's all thematic to what we're trying to do. And then sophomores, career cruising. So you think you want to be an accountant. Let's see if we can get you an internship next year in Amy Sullivan's accounting firm. And that will give you one of two perspectives. Either I love accounting, and I couldn't imagine not going to school and getting an accounting degree, and there are jobs there.
Or you realize you don't want to marry one.
That's the third outcome. Or you realize, oh my God, I could never work in an accounting office. It would for the and there's value in either one of those outcomes. That's what we don't do. Now that idea is taken from Project Lead the Way.
And you have to find another accounting firm to go to because everybody wants to be an accountant in my wife's office.
Okay, I should have used that example. I was pulling the wrong chain there. But the Project Lead the Way program, where kids go through before they apply to engineering school, what the research is on that, if you go through the Project Lead the Way, because it really tries to replicate real work that engineers do. The research is that kids who go through that stay in engineering programs, they don't drop out. engineering programs in general have a very high dropout rate. They stay in engineering, they get degrees, and they work in engineering fields. When you take that simple idea, and it's based on just common sense, how much can you replicate the work you think you want to do before you actually commit to college? Because how many of us know any number of people whose kids are our kids went away to school thinking, I want to do something, only to find out 2 semesters, 3 semesters, 4 semesters down the road after paying a lot of tuition, I really don't want to do that. Or even worse, and this happens all the time, you graduate with a degree and you figure out, I really don't want to be an accountant. That happens all the time. This is not perfect work. We will never get it right 100% of the time, but we can get it right a lot more of the time than we do right now. And if someone doesn't change this, it will not change itself. We have an increasingly needy population. We need to think about how we serve them, not just through high school, but beyond high school, into their working career. We want the same thing for everybody's kid that mom and dad want. Get a job, move out of my basement, get health insurance. Not necessarily in that order.
Isn't there collaboration time on Wednesdays?
It's on Thursday now.
Oh,
This would shift to Thursday.
okay.
It would shift to Thursday, and because we can make Tuesday and Wednesday work. So the way this schedule works, Monday is 1 through 8, Thursday is 1 through 8, and even on collaboration time, we can run probably close to 46-minute periods, which is more than our regular periods now on a non-collaboration time, just because of we gain so much time back on passing periods. But on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, it's 1, 3, 5, 7 on Tuesday, 2, 4, 6, 8 on Wednesday, where we have long periods of time. I've only showed you the counselor schedule, but our students now in English class are going to have 90 minutes of uninterrupted time. In social science, we'll have 90 minutes. In all of their classes, we'll have extended time to do deeper inquiry learning.
Was that this year?
No, if we bring it back, it wouldn't be for a couple of years, at the earliest, like 2018, 19, I think would be the first year we probably do it. So but there is a very specific reason for why time matters. What this does, that our current schedule doesn't do, is this gives us time for our counselors to be a viable part of the schedule and not have to pull kids out of class, not have to push in, and frankly, not have to worry about being judicious about doing that. Our counselors can see every kid every week on this schedule if they want to, and 90% of our classes gain time in doing so. So it creates a model that serves our kids better. Yes?
Okay, quick, just have to echo, I think we are moving to the right path, I think this is excellent idea. Just one quick question in reference to like career cruising. When there's is it teachers can have an experience of many different career fields that the person can able to work with those students?
Are you talking about the teachers?
Yeah, the teacher have to give the students an opportunity for engineer, science.
So Barb has actually started work with that. Now, you're talking specifically about the teachers. How do the teachers support
Can
this?
able to
Yeah,
provide
so I'm a physics teacher, okay? Under the current model, I teach physics. Did anybody ever wonder, maybe I want to be a physicist. What does a physicist do? So we want to eventually, slowly over time, what we don't want to do is supplant someone teaching physics. But there are opportunities in everybody's class to teach or to incorporate a little piece of in geology. Here's what a geologist's work does. And, you know what the field looks like. Here's what the job outlook is. So some of this we hope to over time evolve so that teachers can contribute to that. I was a writing teacher. There are plenty of things that I could talk to students about in terms of writing as a profession and things that you can do with that and other careers that you could evolve into. A lot of this work though is really with our counselors. Because the counselors are working, they've got a caseload of students, so all of those things are actually, this is with our counselors, social workers, psychologists. Most of this work right here would be coming out of the counseling office. And that's the real shift in their job.
Yeah, I guess, again, excellent, because many times the college students who is most of their time wasting their time actually not able to decide what career they want to take, and they could be wasted freshman and sophomore and junior years.
Yeah.
So we can definitely overcome that while we're in high school and keep them in experience.
And they're wasting money while they're doing it too. So that's it. Just a quick update. Again, kudos especially to our three principals, to Barbara Varga. I truly, and I think that the objective data supports that we are doing better by our students than ever before. We can talk philosophically all we want, but the fact of the matter is, kids who get selected in second or third grade for these gifted trajectories, that changes their life. And so we really need to think about how do we change. If you're going to break the cycle of poverty, if you're going to break those cycles, someone's got to have a game plan to do it. Again, it will not be perfect work, but it's important work. And it's the work that we've all been chosen for, and we're privileged to work in a district where we can actually create an opportunity for this to happen. So thank you all very much.
Do you feel that you're having success with the feeder district about changing some of their approaches to that?
I do, and I think, again, the principals interface a lot with them. Barb meets regularly with her counterparts, the assistant superintendents. I'm not always as patient as I could be, so I always want to snap my fingers and change the world tomorrow. But I do believe that we're gaining the capacity for that. One of the things that we talked about is doing a township institute day where we'll bring all the teachers together and really have some of our great teacher leaders working with each other to talk about staff development, because that's where a lot of it starts. It's just growing capacity with the teachers. Systemically, I don't know that I would start from ground zero when creating. First of all, we should stop using the word gifted. It's the wrong word. Gifted is truly rare, and so even District 64, that they think the top 5% of their test takers, all of whom or none of whom may truly be gifted by a true definition of giftedness. It's just the top 5% of the test takers, and what the research would tell us is that even in third grade, the top 5% of your test takers are probably disproportionately coming from your more affluent households. So we should move past that model. It's an outdated model, and we should think about talent development and growing capacity. And that's really, norming it at 5% is itself. You set the die there that doesn't change. So what I'm proposing to them is they just think about how do we grow accelerated learning for everybody. I heard a good thing today about testing. We test to see how smart kids are. We need to test to see what they're smart at. Sort of flipping that script a little bit, and I think it's more about that, finding where kids have strengths and really trying to grow those strengths as much as possible.
Seems important because the benefits will be cumulative.
Yes.
As they move forward. Thank you very much. That's it.
That is it.
Do we have any updates from board members?
I think that would tie into that, and it's important, especially addressing the hospitals and health departments in Cook County, and the health impact collaborative with Cook County that's addressing social determinants of health, public education. Everything we just said is deeply tied in. It's been analyzed, and that 27 hospitals, 7 health departments, including the Cook County Department of Health, and multiple education stakeholders, much of education. You and I talked about that, but I think it's very important that we're recognizing that as well. There's that correlation across, and there's great partnerships in that collaborative, working for educational partners, so that's throughout the county, so central. So I think it's very forefront, and I think there's partners out there and other entities to move this forward.
And Terry, Mary, Jim, who were at the National School Board Conference last year, we had a room full of board members from around the country that were really interested in what we're trying to do. And they were really, they stayed after, they had to run us out so the next session could start. But there's a lot of, and I don't think anything we're doing is, none of this is rocket science. It's just work. It's just common sense work. But but we've got to the time is the one thing that we've got to reimagine. And where our affluent families, kids grow up, and it's the conversation at the dinner table. It's thinking about going to school. It's all of these kind of things. We just have an increasingly poor, diverse population of learners, and if we don't do the work or figure out a game plan for this, it's not going to happen by itself. And the world for them is not going to change by itself. So I think it's just we provide world-class teaching here in this district. I'll stack our teaching up against anybody, anywhere. Great support, But this is the, I think Barb said the last bridge to cross maybe, and it's that really detailed student service. It's the, you know, how do you really change outcomes for kids in a meaningful way beyond just getting them a diploma, getting them a life that, where they can earn a career, they can have a fulfilling career, it's something they're passionate about. And if we could get it right for every kid, that theater kid would have little to no debt, but find a job that they were passionate about. Hopefully they get health insurance. One of the things about, unfortunately, in that line of work, sometimes it can be seasonal, so you can be in and out, but at least they're going into it well informed with their eyes wide open. And maybe they'll be Harrison Ford. That happens sometimes too.
Okay, moving along, monthly status of finances.
In your board packet is the July financial statements. On the revenue side, you can see that the percentage as compared to the percentage of the year is slightly higher, and that's because we're starting to see the tax collections come in. On the expenditure side, you can see the ed fund is slightly lower, and that's because we haven't started to pay time-off salaries, and the operation and maintenance and health life safety funds are higher, but those are due to summer projects, which is all to be expected. So I will entertain any questions that anybody has on the July financial statements.
Instructional services.
On this month,
Other items, monthly update on FOIA requests.
We had 10 this past month, and they had each all been responded to.
All right, could I have a motion on item 6, the consent agenda, items A through G? Any questions or comments on those? Would you call the roll?
Bessler. Childers. Collins. Lee. Sullivan.
Aye. Okay, could I have a motion on item 7, approval of District 207 budget for 2016-17?
I'll move the board dedication and council to approve the 2016-2017 budget revenues of $139,612,807 expenditures of
Any questions on that? There was a public hearing on this. I've discussed this before, but are there any other questions? Okay. Hearing none, take the roll, please.
Sullivan. Lee. Collins. Childers. Bessler. Owen.
Aye. Okay, I have a motion on use of facilities. Items, well, why don't we take these one at a time? Item A, Catherine. Is there a second on that? Okay. Any questions or comments or discussion on this? Sean, do you want to just tell us just, what's involved in this? In the CAF, right?
Basically, what this enables CAF to do is to assist inmates out, and also work with not only the township as part of their efforts, but also with some of our students related to being able to provide services for them if they have a policy violation to address them.
So it's some kind of education that they would be getting, be done at Main South,
That means that.
but kind of as needed basis. would be
Yes,
all the
as
time.
issues come up related to our students, so it's definitely on an ad-need basis, predominantly throughout the school.
Okay, and it's a conference room that's used or something.
That is correct.
Was there a demand on Main East and Main West high school total location-wise, we might need to provide the services to that particular?
This would be for any, for all districts. Yeah, just to have,
It's also,
we don't have enough staff to put in each place, so they would have it in one location.
And it has been beneficial to some of our students, especially because of the cost. Significantly less.
significantly less. Any questions or comments on that? Hearing none?
Bessler. Childers. Lee. Sullivan. Collins. And Owen.
Aye.
Move B.
Is there a second on that? Any questions on that? Mike, you want to just give us a quick
fantastic opportunity to see what SO is recognized to be one of the elite ensembles on the planet. We've got two main students that are in that orchestra, a student from West, a student from East this year. It's a great opportunity for certainly the kids in our programs to be able to stay at home and hear some fantastic music.
So this is free of charge and open to public.
That is for Sunday.
Questions, comments, discussion? Hearing none, please roll call vote.
Lee, Collins, Bessler, Childers, Sullivan, Owen.
Aye. Okay, can I have a motion on item now? 8? Any questions on this?
Yes, I have a question. The cost-wise, is quite.
These are very, very needy special education students that and actually our tuition is down because we're placing fewer students in some of the age out of the program. So this is actually less than last year. These are very, very involved students in terms of their needs.
Is it our district?
Yes.
Fully responsible?
Yes.
That's the government?
No. It is, if it's a district student, we are responsible for their education.
And just to be clear, we get more students, the price will go up. The more severely disabled students are, the price will go up.
Yeah, so you can see like for 6 students, 3 program aides, so that's to help the students. One of these students is so physically challenged, they have a nurse. So I mean, and that's by IEP, that's by law, so we have to provide those services.
And where are these fundings are coming from?
We budget for those, we do get some reimbursement, but not nearly enough. I would point, and I can bring it back, I didn't include the slide this year, but I think when I arrived here in 2005, we had about 120 students out of district place. We're down to about 50. So we have cut our out of district placement budget significantly in the last 10 years. Now that doesn't mean we've cut special education budgets because we, just like at Maine East where we have a low incidence program, what we've done is taken as many students who are out in other facilities, educating them here.
You cut the outplacements.
We've cut the outplacement.
Paying somebody else.
We're not paying somebody else to do it. I couldn't even say for sure that we've saved money overall. We've probably saved a little, but I think it's better if kids can come to school in their own district school. These are just students that, because of their very specific disabilities, we don't have the programming for them that NSSEO is a better fit for those particular students.
And we've been having this program or service for
Years,
many
decades.
And this is the best, most realistic
Yes.
options
Yes.
that we can provide?
Yes.
Well, there's a number of factors, location,
Yeah.
the skill sets that are required. I mean, there's a lot of things that are measured by the academics department in order to turn around and have these placements.
This is one you've seen every year. This is coming every year. This is actually reduced probably by 100,000 from last year.
Last year, there were, I looked up the board book from last year, there were 9 students, 3 program aides, and 2 nurses for about 827,000. So that's what the contract was for last year.
And this doesn't fluctuate over the year, I mean, could a student move into this?
Yes.
Yes, it
You could move in or move out.
Okay. Is there a per student cost?
Yes.
Yes.
So
And
it just,
it's based on, and actually it's based on the specific need. Like some of these students some of them may have that aide. Well, that aide is a cost for that student. Student that has a nurse, that nurse is a cost for that student. So the price for each student is really premised on the services for each student.
do we enter into a new tuition agreement?
Yes.
You would have to if it went out.
If it went out.
If somebody left the district.
And
the
because
boards approved this higher amount, we wouldn't have a problem.
special education students are eligible services till the day before they turn 22. So they could age out in February. So you could have a student leave in February. Now, generally when we do an annual like this, it's if any of these students are age out students,
We take that
we
into
take that into account.
So age out means we as a district are fully responsible for until their age of 21.
22.
Through 21,
Through 21.
up to their 22nd birthday.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, Jean, would you call the roll?
Bessler, Lee, Sullivan,
Aye.
Childers, Collins, Owen.
Aye. Can I have a motion on?
Move 9B, Grant Flowers, LLC.
Your second? Any questions, comments?
I have a question. Are we currently, all the three schools are contract with this particular company?
Maine South and Maine East are, I'm not sure.
We are as well.
And Maine West is as well, all three.
So currently are three.
And their contracts expire in different years. So the Maine East contract is up now. They're renewing for 2 years. Maine South's contract was for 3 years.
Would it be much cost saving if we can deal with the Great Flowers for having all in the same time contract?
The gross proceeds are 25%, whether you have one contract or 3. So that's their standard contract, is they will provide 25% of the proceeds of the sale back. So there's no volume discount to entering them into 1 year. They've gone with different years based on, I think it started at one school and the other schools found out what a nice touch that added to graduation and added them as a contract.
So like last year graduation, we had a 3 graduation all at the same day, one day, spontaneously. So this company has been there throughout whole day.
Yes.
An average 25% of commission so-called is approximately what, $35,000?
Oh, no. It's a maximum of a couple $100.
But I saw somewhere 15,000 or 20,000.
You're talking about the whole rental agreements for this building, big difference.
Any thought ever given to having nonprofits do that? Yeah.
We've not had, I mean, not had anyone approach us and offer to provide that type of service.
Is there say not-for-profit flower shop of some kind?
You know, scarves, flowers, they're all along the same what I mean, I'm just wondering, because sometimes I've seen that, you know, where you could partner with a nonprofit to.
Well,
you
we
know,
don't
offers-
part, I mean, really,
This
Grad
is a-
Flowers
this
is
is a
solely
business,
responsible
so-
for coming in, setting up quality of the flowers, handling any refunds if a parent is not satisfied with the quality of their flowers, and we simply receive a commission check.
So we have not heard any complaints or anything from the graduated parents?
No.
or-
It's a no-brainer, I just thought I would ask.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
But Jerry, we look forward to your sales days.
Your free scarves.
Scarves are getting old, but move on to your thing.
All right, would you call the roll then on item 9?
Collins,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sullivan, Bessler, Childers, Owen.
Aye.
Make a motion to table 9C.
This is being done just to give us a little more of an opportunity to look into that agreement. This is the first time we've tried. Okay, any questions or comments?
You know, while I'm abstaining from that, and will be, just one thing I note that in this title, it says that the, and I'm not following this as in any form of American's point of side either, but it says that it's to provide, healthcare to students in need. It's actually providing healthcare.
Very,
We
yeah.
thought that. We thought that.
Yes.
Revised version probably.
And just one of the reasons I moved the table is because I'd like to become a finance, so we can discuss it. Okay. We'll have a meeting here. Okay.
So, let's take the roll on the motion.
Do we have to vote on the abstaining?
Just to table.
Or table it, or
We're just tabling it.
so we don't vote on it?
Voting on table.
Oh, okay.
That's what vote is, that's what motion.
Motion is to table.
Sullivan,
Aye.
Lee, Bessler,
Abstain.
Childers,
Aye.
Collins,
Aye.
Owen.
Aye. Item 10, calendar items, there's a number of things here mentioned, finance committee, got a number of meetings coming up, I think, we're working on a policy committee meeting, we haven't heard back from that.
Correct. Margaret has gotten back.
Okay. Anything else anyone needs to add to this?
Well, it's not on here, but we have our education meeting, 29th.
Right.
On the one
Yes,
online.
it is
It's on
September
the
29th. Is on here.
Yeah, it's on this one.
Third one down.
I was just looking at my.
Okay.
I guess I could look for it.
Okay, it's all right.
Bessler. Childers. Collins. Lee.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Owen.
Aye. Okay, could I have a motion on item 14A through H with the appendices?
So moved.
I'll second
Only thing I wanted to mention here is that there are revised substitute rates we saw.
Yes, we're seeking an increase in the substitute rate from $100 to $120.
Which brings us kind of in line with neighboring districts and stuff.
During our financial crisis, we were paying $115 a day, and we moved that back down to 95, and then back up to 100. We're trying to stay competitive. All of our sending districts currently pay more than we do, so this will put us on top of them and more competitive with our surrounding school districts.
Any questions or comments on that? Jenny, would you take the roll? Lee. Collins. Bessler. Sullivan. Childers. Owen. Aye. Okay. Other items, informational compliance reports?
Yeah, that's, we're required by state law to publish 2 compensation reports. And so before we can post those on our websites, we have to provide them to the board in an informational format prior to posting them on our website by October 1st.
And that's what we got in there.
We do that every year.
Other business, could I have a motion to approve our closed session minutes from the regular board meeting of 1st, 2016? Is there a second?
Second. I thought Paul had said it.
Paul,
I
Paul
can't.
abstaining because he wasn't there.
Well,
Any,
if I was late, you can come up.
Yeah.
yeah, it's no email. Okay. Roll, please. Childers. Lee. Bessler. Collins. Sullivan. Owen. Aye. Item 17, we have a motion on closed session minutes and semi-annual review.
So,
Is there a second? Questions or comments? This is information that came out previously in Friday notes. This is something we do periodically. Questions or comments? Okay, Jenny, would you take the roll? Sullivan? Lee? Collins? Childers? Bessler? And Owen. Aye. Could I have a motion to adjourn? All in favor?